Welcome back, pre-pressers. This is your instructor, Ben Hewitt, and this is Fullerton College's Print 75 and 77 pre-press class. Today, we're taking a look at the PIA's pre-press training manual task 2.5. I still don't know why they couldn't just call them chapters. We're looking at page layout software, and this is one of the shorter chapters we're doing this semester. Hooray! Because as I will probably rant to no end, some of the most astounding things about what page layout software does is not what it does, but what it does not do. So, and it's oddly difficult to make a program that does so little. And I'm saying that somewhat facetiously because it's an incredibly powerful tool, especially for the fact that it does not do some things that you would think it would. Anyways, let's take a look at our chapter. We're going to look at the different functions of page layout software. What does it do? We're going to look at the differences between major page layout packages, although really there's only one right now. In the kind of Highlander universe, the Quark Express doesn't really exist anymore. And oh, spoilers, common brands of page layout software. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about the two that exist when we get there. So this is why we're all here taking this class together. This is why you guys are learning how to create documents on computers for printing and output and publishing, and not learning how to do this on a light table with knives, rulers, and rubber cement, like in the video you guys hopefully just watched. And hopefully that also helps you understand kind of what page layout software is getting at, since it is designed to replace physical paste up or stripping as the way of creating a layout and prepping it for output. So a lot of the tools here are mirroring things that could have been done and used to be done manually with, again, knives, rulers, scissors, and rubber cement. Good times. I still remember that smell growing up. We're also looking at the ability to bring together your text, bringing in pixel images, vector graphics, and combining them all to make a combined, beautiful layout that uses all these different elements in them. And then one of the best things, especially considering how, at least so far, it's the gift that keeps on giving and keeps on improving. I have seen no end in sight at this time for the PDF as the end-all be-all output file that just does everything really well, and they keep making it better and better. Page layout software is also the best place to make PDFs. You have the most control here, especially, and I'm not trying to just promote anything. I'm not being paid for sales. Gosh, I am not, and they really should pay me for this. Adobe InDesign, because Adobe, although it's freeware now and open source for PDF creation, anybody can write their own specifications, still it was invented by Adobe. And so the same people with the same coding creating a page layout software, you better believe it's going to be able to very effectively translate itself into PDF. Moving on. You bring in graphics from outside the program and you drop them in. They can be placed into the page. Notice I said placed, I did not say embedded, although you can embed. We'll talk about the difference there. You can put them in at their full size. You can position them, crop them, resize them, scale them to the size you want. And this right here, the ability to do this does not seem astounding to you guys because y'all are spoiled. When I was a kid, before this really took off into the craze that it is now, without computer control and without the kind of robust capabilities we have now to let you do this in InDesign, in order to put a picture into a layout, you had to take the film negatives of that photo, cut them out, and glue them onto the layout that you were making for photographing again to make more film to make the actual output. And if you wanted to make your picture larger or smaller, you actually had to do the math of how big or small it had to be. And you had to convert it to halftones, all by using special lenses and filters on a camera. So if you wanted to make a picture half the size that it was, you would get a lens onto this camera that would reduce. It was a reduction lens, and it was like a magnifying glass in reverse that would reduce the size of what you're shooting by whatever percentages you're looking for. So you get the 50% lens, you put it on there, and you'd shoot the photo and develop that film, and then that film would then be able to be turned into another photo that you then glue and paste up into your final outputted piece. So to be able to do this in situ, live, WYSIWYG, right in front of your face is actually pretty fantastic. I'm just hoping I can help impart on you just a little bit of the appreciation you should have for the power that you guys are using on your computers. The amount of time and effort that you are not spending doing this is incredible. Now, in Quark Express, you are linking your images. This means that you're not actually putting your pictures into your design. Your layout does not contain any of the pictures that you're putting into it. Gasp. This is a way of cheating the computer to get better performance, especially from the earlier days of graphics on computers, the early days when it was still called desktop publishing, and we were all excited that this was a possibility. The computers we were using were the mid-'80s Macintoshes and the barely sort of running Windows world. Just actually, it was almost all Macintosh for this stuff. We were just barely getting into the world of graphics, and computers did not have the power to really do what they do now. So one of the workarounds was when you put an image into your document, you didn't actually embed it. Like if you do this in Microsoft Word and you put a picture in there, Microsoft Word saves all of the pixel. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves here and say all, but Microsoft Word saves itself a copy of the photo at a resolution that it likes with color settings that it likes and puts it inside the document and is a part of the saved file. Quark Express, and also InDesign, which is, though much better, could not have been made without a Quark Express before it. They don't actually put the pictures inside. They leave the pictures where they are on the computer, and they will put a low resolution preview that you can see, just make it WYSIWYG, that way you don't have to remember everything. And it shows you what the picture basically looks like, but not at full quality. Why is this a good thing? This is wonderful because this means instead of the precious RAM memory your computer has being spent showing you pictures of what your thing looks like, it kind of gives you a hint of what it is, the LaCroix of images, if you will. And that saves that RAM for processing more complicated parts of your document. It saves it for processing scaling and processing color filters and things that you drop on top, all sorts of things that cause your computer to have to think, remember, and process. It's better to save that power for those things and not waste that power just to show you, the user, pictures. We still benefit from this today, actually. The linking and not putting in pictures thing, that's still good now. Even though our computers are much better, and for the most part you have RAM and memory and processing power to spare, still, you can get to a point where your documents are so long and unwieldy that even showing low resolution pictures of everything makes it much more difficult for your computer to show it to you and wastes a lot of its precious resources instead of using them where they should be used. Excuse me. We're still in Quark Express here, as you can see by the title in the corner there. But yes, you get a low resolution preview, not the full picture. And it tells you on the computer, it still has the full resolution picture somewhere else. So when you go to print or go to make a PDF, which is basically the same thing as far as the computer is concerned, you're really, when you're putting pictures into these, you're making a packing list. You're telling it when you make this document, don't forget to get tape.jpg and put that in right here. So that's one of the main things it does, is it will keep your images wherever you have them on the computer, but pick them all up and put them into the final output when it does that. It saves them for later and then goes back to them. This is why file management is so crucial. Because if you move things around on the computer, you will lose these linked graphics, and that will cause huge problems. Some of them will show up with the wrong symptoms, and you got to be a little bit of a Dr. House here and figure out when you see some of these low-res pictures showing up, am I actually looking at a low-resolution image, or am I looking at the ghost, a preview of a file that no longer exists or has been moved? That's the real question. Anyways, we will talk more about that later with some demonstrations and things. So let me also give you my heavy-handed analogy, because you know I like those. Right now, those of you who are middle-aged are saying, oh yeah, Pinterest. But those of you who are younger will say, Pinterest, and I will tell you this is Pinterest. This is a website pinboard that's just similar to the linking process. I'm using it as my heavy-handed analogy. Today, we're looking at a picture of the super awesome admiral's coat that Lord Viscount Horatio Nelson died in the Battle of Trafalgar. Moment of silence for the greatest sailor in history. What a guy. Anyways, not the best role model, actually, outside of nauticalness. He was not exactly someone you should be looking up to, other than his prowess on the sea. So we have this picture here on this website. Pinterest does not actually have any of its own content. Lots of people use it for lots of things, but it's really for saving links to other places on the internet. Let me show you my demonstration by clicking. So here's the awesome coat, the Royal Navy Admiral coat here with all of his orders and Royal Societies is a part of. We'll click on the link right here. If done correctly, Pinterest should have an active link to the outside internet to where the original source material is. It's just a way of creating basically a table of contents of things you want to remember. I often use these use pin boards on Pinterest myself to help me find things later so I can create style boards for projects I'm working on. I find it pretty handy for that. Also, in my model making nerd hobbies, it's great to save lots of pictures of whatever tank or airplane you're going to build so you can reference it easily later. So if I click on this here, the dearsurprise.com, this should open up. Let me make sure it's actually sharing the right thing. Yep, it is. That should drag us out to looking at whatever web page it should have been on. And now we're on a page, and in fact, it is full of more and more of these things. And a little grotesquely, apparently this is actually the uniform he was killed in on the deck of HMS Victory in the Battle of Trafalgar. Kiss me hearty and all that stuff. Anywho's, this is the web page. This is where the source actually is. Back on Pinterest over here, this picture is being brought in from somewhere else, and Pinterest doesn't actually store the picture. It simply links the picture from somewhere else. Done properly, Pinterest always goes to an outside source and is a way of collecting content. There are people, however, and I was an early adopter of this, by the way, and I took my civic duty seriously to actually import pictures from outside and create content in here because it didn't have much, especially because in the early days of Pinterest, if you search tank, the best you were going to get was tank tops and other fashion items. So I did a lot of early work scouring the internet for good photos of World War II tanks and dragging them in to make sure that they'd exist here. But anyways, if you don't, and you're only using other pins and relinking them, what you're doing I call pincest. But we're not going to stop there. That's a terrible place to end a lecture. So let me go ahead and pause and we'll jump back over to our other side. So back here, looking at our lecture, and there will be some demonstrations later for you to watch as well on how this linking process works. This is an important thing to understand because it affects a lot, both in file preparation and file fixing. And if you get into variable data, it really affects you there. So just the main point of today's little lecture here before I sign off and do a second half of this video is that when you link graphics into a page layout software, you are not embedding them in. They are not a part of the file. They are a part of a packing list. And you're telling the computer to come back later and put this in place when it prints.
Can we get your dad's keys? Could steal them, but he lost them 2 days ago. Only we could go back in time to when he had them and steal them then. Well, why can't we? We don't got time. We could do it after the report. Ted, good thinking, dude. After the report, we'll time travel back to 2 days ago, steal your dad's keys, and leave them here. Where? I don't know. How about behind that sign? That way, when we get here now, they'll be waiting for us. See? Whoa, yeah! So after the report, we can't forget to do this, otherwise it won't happen. But it did happen. Hey, it was me who stole my dad's keys.
And so that's the other way I think about linking images. It's like Bill and Ted going back in time after they finish what they're going to do to go back and set things up to make sure they're going to work. It's all about creating a to-do list that's going to be handled later. So when you put a link for an image into the computer, you're telling it later on, when you print this, go back and get that picture. So that picture had better be where you say it's going to be, or this is not going to work.